In the beginning, when ChatGPT came a few years ago, it was totally forbidden in the Dutch schools. In my class, they may use it. I say, I add a friend to your team. His name is Chat. You can use him. ChatGPT, yes, you can ChatGPT, but you must first use your own brains before you ask him for someone. And be critical, because not everything is true.
Hey everyone, I'm Dave in South Florida, and I'm joined with my co-host Jim from Boston. And today we're going across the Atlantic, and we're going to talk to Willie about eduScrum and how it helps with better ways of working. Hey Willie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Tell us about yourself, where you're located, and tell us about eduScrum.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Jim, for inviting me to this podcast. I'm Willy Wijnands. I'm a teacher at a high school in the Netherlands, near Amsterdam, in the city of Leiden. Leiden is well known for the universities. And during my teaching stuff since 1976, I was constantly looking for how can I give ownership to my students? How can I do this? That they can work in their own way, because I cannot teach them chemistry. I can only teach them how they can look and learn chemistry by themselves. So I'm a coach or facilitator, and not a really preacher who sent out my message. So in 2011, I discovered Scrum when I drinking a beer with friends on a barbecue, and he told me about Scrum. And I did it. I never heard from it, but he touched me. He touched my heart, and I directly apply it in September when the school starts again. And it was really a kind of a struck by lightning. The light was off and the light was on. Actually, the energy in the classroom was directly changed. I tried it out with only one class. It's the first year students, because when it was a failure, I have a lot of time to repair it. But it wasn't a failure. It was really a big change. So then after that, I apply it to 3 classes, and the next to that to 5 classes. And then the journey starts. So that was my first story. Next to that, I was happy what happens in my classroom. So, and it was not my idea. It was not my goal to change the world or to change education. It was only for myself, for my students. How can I teach them in a better way? Not that I the preacher, but I am the facilitator. That they work in teams together. And it works out very well. 1 year later, Jeff Sutherland here that I apply Scrum in the educational world. And in 2012, he visited me in the classroom in the Netherlands. He was giving a course here, and then he jumped out to my classroom, and it was really very nice when he come into my classroom and saw what's happening. And the next part was it. Then he wrote an article in his book, Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. Chapter 9, Out of My Mind. Yes, out of my head now. And after that, the ball became rolling. So more people in the world call me or send me an email. Can you talk about this and this and this? Okay, I did it. And in 2016, I was invited to come to Germany, to Stuttgart, to a big conference, a Scrum conference, a Scrum Europe conference. And Jeff was also there, and I gave the talk with my students. So my students introduced themselves on the floor. And when I wanted to start, my students say to me, "You sit down. We will introduce you, but first we talk first." And that was really a little scary, but okay. And next to that, my students perform on a really good stage, on the stage in the Stuttgart conference. That was it for the first time. And after that, the ball was rolling, going on. And I visited at that time 15 different countries in the world, all over, from US, from South America to Russia, to all kind of places in the world, in Europe. And then Corona came. So everybody knows what happens with Corona, but it was also a good profit, because in Corona time, you have to go from in person to online. So, and this method that it happens that we are now situated in more than 50 countries all over. And So that's going on now. And since Corona time, we had a lot of online trainings. The online trainings are now a little diminished. I am happy for that because it is very busy with all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, we are working now to collect all cases all over the world for people who work with eduScrum in an agile way of learning. And until now, we have now at least 82 cases, cases and case studies with real life examples. And so really awesome, really great. And I didn't expect it that it was happening. I would be glad when I have only 6 or 7 cases, but all over the world people joining us, and I think there will become more, more and more articles in. So we create a library. We will share this library with the world. People can join in the library. There's only one condition. When people want to join and read all the articles, they had to add in their own contribution and not pay a lot of money. No, add in your contribution, and then you can look at all the articles we have.
This is great. So let's take a step back for a minute. So when you get a classroom to take on EduScrum, one of the things that always interests me on anything where you apply Scrum is what does the backlog look like? So can you give us an idea of what the backlog would look like for the students?
Yes. First, I don't talk about backlog. I don't talk about agile learning. I don't talk about Scrum or EduScrum with my students. When I teach chemistry, I don't teach chemistry in the old classical way for the formulas, reactions, and this kind of stuff. I talk about with them about what is the usefulness of chemistry, why we have to learn chemistry, how can you apply it. So I take a real life case, all my stuff what I have to teach them for the exam curriculum. I take a real life case about how they can apply EduScrum in a real way, and at the same time they will learn chemistry by themselves, working in teams together. So one example is what I give to my year before exam students is determine how much copper is in the cell phones. So they get a cell phone from me, and they have to crush this cell phone, and then find ways how to get the copper out of the cell phone. And next to that, also I ask why we have to recycling this kind of stuff, why we need to go into recycling mode. Next to that, what is I'm a favorite out of it, I use also that the students become aware of the sustainable development goals. So they have to find out at least 2 sustainable development goals, what is related to the copper in cell phones, recycling process. This is one example. But there's also example of create your own menu and what is in the menu and how much calories are into it and how many allergens are into it. All this kind of stuff is real life basis. Or a project is now, I'm now busy with the student team about alcohol. Is alcohol good for you? What is the bad things? What is the when you are addicted to alcohol drinking a lot? What happens with your body? But also on chemistry level, what happens with your mind? So all this kind of stuff, I try to step in their minds of their own learning environment.
Yeah, so it's great. You're giving them either a problem or something to learn, and then you're giving them a specified time box. And the sprint review is really, explaining the solution or what they found out about, like you said, like alcohol, what's the effects of alcohol, et cetera.
Yeah. And next to the time box, have to give them a time box because I have to stick to the school exams and the
Right,
national exams.
right.
So within a week of 7 weeks, a semester of 7 weeks, they can apply this way of working. And next to that, and that is for the exam for the classes for students of up to 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. And the lower classes, when they come to me and learn about chemistry, I ask them, I want to learn about chemistry. Okay. I say, what do you want to learn? You can tell me now, what do you want to learn? What are your needs? What are you interested in? What make you curious? So an example for students want to get the sugar out of the big, I don't know the English word for it, the big, some roots. How can you get,
Sugar cane? Get the sugar
yes,
out of the
I get
sugar cane?
sugar cane. Yes,
Yeah.
sugar cane. Thank you, Dave.
I live in Florida, so it's all over here.
Yes, how can you get the sugar out of it? So that is have to do it by themselves. And what kind of chemistry? is behind it. That is basic stuff. Another students, what I did around Christmas time is they want to make fireworks. And firework is dangerous. So they came up with a toilet roll, and they want to put all the the stuff to explode this kind of stuff. So I don't dare to and light it because that is very, 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 very dangerous. So you go to do it. You have to find out what is the chemistry behind fireworks. So, and when you came up with the reaction, all this kind of stuff, the safety stuff, then we're going to create the firework. And I do it step by step. So some teachers in my old school say that is too dangerous. You may not do it. Yes, I do it, but I do it in small steps. And step by step, I let them and light every time more and more until there is a certain point where they become really dangerous. And I don't need to tell them, now we stop. They tell by themselves, now we stop.
Yeah, that's good. So you're still supervising them, and
Yes,
you're
of
the
course.
guardrail, so they don't blow up the school
Yeah, yes.
with their hands or anything.
If I
That's
have
great.
a few questions, can you hear me well?
Yeah, I hear
Yeah,
you.
go ahead.
So I think the biggest, I've worked with Willie before numerous times, and I learned a lot from Willie, especially from a eduScrum perspective. One of the big questions I always had was, as I've done it at the higher ed level, with the college level, the university level, the biggest thing was most of the students were very enthusiastic about it. They actually looked at it and said, this is completely different the way I've done it. And that's a good thing. So the one biggest impediment I always had with this is, how do I actually take the basic issues of education, i.e., what exams do I have to give, all of those things, the basic structure thing you have in most universities. So you've done it at the more elementary level, high school level, correct?
So what I do, I teach also on, for instance, on some universities in the Netherlands and outside the Netherlands. And what I do in the beginning, as you said already, Jim, in the beginning, it is a strange way of working. It's a totally other way of working, that the teacher is not in charge anymore. Yes, he's in charge, but in another way. So in the beginning, I give them clear stories and clear criteria. This is what I do in the first way. So the backlog, I make the backlog for them and create stories out of them. Out of these stories, I give them the minimal viable criteria, the acceptance criteria. We call it celebration criteria, but it is the same. So this is what I do the first time. And I say, this is the minimal what you have to do, what you have to go for it. But when you want to add more interested stories into it, and when you want to add more criteria into it, be my friend. Go for it. So, but in the first time, I give them clear criteria.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. That's the big issue I always had, especially as I did it. But I guess the other question is, how do you actually deal with the administration? How do you deal with the regulation of how you have to do this, especially in the United States? I know based off of what we had in the United States, we were restrictive in regards to education institutions. And actually, when they looked at it, they said, "Oh, this is great, but how do I actually do the basics of what I have to do for the students?" So that's really the big question: is how do I deal with administrative people of how you actually roll out eduScrum or Scrum itself?
So, as you mentioned, that is also a big issue, mostly because when they work in a team, normally, but it is not normal, they get the same mark for it. But in my case, not, because they have to work and they have to divide that task, what they have to do. And that must be clear. I give them I give the mark for their contribution and how difficult that contribution is. That is one of the marks what I get. The second is when I do at the end, when the whole process is finished, or no, not on the end, also in between, in the review moments, and in the end, I let them reflect in the retrospective about themselves, about their team members, what they did, and I let them give them a mark to the other team members and let them explain why you give a mark to Dave. And Dave get a 7, Jim get a 9, Willie get a 2. And what is you give it? So you have to motivate why you give these marks. And I can tell you, the students are very honest. They are really honest to give the marks by themselves, but also to the others. So that is very important. And with all these collections of this information, I give them an end result. And before they get the end result mark, I have also a vocal exam with them individually,
Okay.
not as a team, because in a team, they don't dare to speak open and free. So they can talk to me, and then I make notes out of it. And after that, I give them the mark, end result. And then who wants to discuss about it? So I'm open to discuss. When I not agree with the results, please tell me. We go into discussion.
Yeah. And actually, I did the same thing, especially in universities. Expanded it out. And again, what happened was a lot of when the administrative people heard about eduScrum and how you actually did Scrum, can you give us some of the histories you had with the issues you had with administration people? How did they actually deal with it? Did they actually feel see about this?
Yeah. In the beginning, I give them the criteria where I get points for it. So normally in the old schools, I couldn't give them marks or results for working together. But in the working together and how to communicate, how to work together, how do you divide your task, what do you learn at your teammates? That is all in the front criteria written on paper. So they know how many points they can get from all this kind of stuff. When they don't communicate out of the series from 0 to 10, okay, they get, for instance, they get a 0 or a 10 or in between. I have to motivate it, and they have also, the team members had also to motivate how that work out.
Okay, great, great.
And during the process, when I see that, for instance, Dave doesn't work, I take Dave out, not really out, but I go to talk with Dave and I say, okay, Dave, what is the matter? What do you need? Why don't you work together with your team members? And then we go into discussion.
And actually, I was doing that. I didn't realize I was doing eduScrum before I actually met you. And actually, as I started to do it, the students were very receptive about it. They understood. They actually said, this is completely different. I actually wouldn't sit at the front of the class. I actually sat in the middle, in the class, and they loved that. A big difference. So as they did that, they loved it. Jeff actually called me one time and said, how do you do eduScrum, especially in the United States? Let's compare the United States versus Europe. Is there big differences between the education system in Europe, which I think there is, and compared to the United States, which I could talk about that?
Now, I don't know exactly how the educational system in the US is working, and don't know exactly how the educational system in Europe works. I know a little bit about the Dutch and the German educational world. But, what I encounter is that the whole educational system is very fixed with rules. And that system works, in 100 years ago and maybe 50 years ago, it works very well because the teacher was the head in charge. He was the boss. He can tell you what to do. Nowadays, we have computers, we have Google, we have AI. So we have to change this transformational stuff. And next to that, we don't need hard workers anymore. We need critical thinkers. And how to deal with ChatGPT. In the beginning, when ChatGPT came a few years ago, it was totally forbidden in the Dutch schools. In my class, they may use it. I say, I add a friend to your team. His name is Chat. You can use him. ChatGPT, yes, you can ChatGPT, but you must first use your own brains before you ask him for some advice. And be critical, because not everything is true. And changing a system, a very fixed system, not only in the Netherlands or all over, but I think all over the world, it costs a lot of time. A system fixed for 10 decennia of years we work in this system, and it works until now maybe. So, and we have to take risks. We have to take risks. Maybe it become a failure when we change the educational system. And we, in the old days, we control the students. Now we must, between brackets, also control the students, but in another way. We have to control them in another way. We give them ownership and talk about their way of working. and give them real ownership to their learning process, own learning process. And in the beginning, when I talk with my first lesson is chemistry, I don't talk about chemistry. I talk about relationship. I talk about autonomy. I talk about freedom. I want to give you freedom and I want to give you autonomy. But when you have when you have no skills and they give you a lot of freedom, it will be chaos. So step by step, I give you more and more freedom that you can take the responsibility for it, step by step. Otherwise, you create chaos. And I like chaos. I like it, but you have to put the chaos in a structure.
Yeah.
Chaos is creativity.
Yeah, exactly. And especially most of the classes I've taught was, especially at the graduate level, right? I actually introduced eduScrum or Scrum as a whole, and actually did it to the students. And it was very chaotic sometimes. And I did notice chaos. But actually, as I did that, I actually switched it the other way. And so switched it very slowly. And they did it, especially at this graduate level, they did more projects as opposed to standard, and that's what I did. Students were like, they freaked out, especially a lot of times I would say, I'm going to understand. And I really noticed, especially relationships, how they start to work together. And I said, based off what you're going to do in the real world, you're going to learn this. You want to learn things, especially here. How do
Yes.
you do this here? And then you actually do it to your job. And they were like, oh, this is very good. Very good. So I guess I got a million questions for you, Willie. The other question is, and especially when you said ChatGPT, I would get all these emails from different administrations that I work for. And they said, based off of this, don't use ChatGPT. Don't use anything with AI. But again, a lot of people are actually looking at that saying, well, you know what? You can let them learn it. You can let them use it, but make sure they understand what they have to do originally and use ChatGPT or whatever. Use that as validation of what they want to talk about.
Yes.
That's really the biggest thing. Especially, I did a presentation for, I won't name the institution, and I actually said to the project managers I was teaching, this is what you have to do. You have to understand what project management is, and then you have to understand, especially where project management has, this project itself is project management, and plus you have also Agile on top of it. Now you have AI on top of it. So there's a big difference between what tools you're going to use and actually what you have to do. So I think the big issue is, have you seen the same issue when you have all these students looking at things as eduScrum or Scrum as a tool or as a way you could actually do good demonstrations, good products out of the classes? Is that what you actually saw?
As you talk about, we write in our website also, we don't believe in eduScrum, We don't believe in it because it is a very simple tool, a piece of paper with sticky notes and put left and right. You make some notes, some stories and so on. But the deeper philosophy behind it is more important than the simple tool, like a pencil, Then pencil in this way is you get to write with, but it's also a very dangerous tool. Writing can be dangerous and very powerful, but when you use this pencil as a weapon, you can kill someone. So that's the same. That's the same with Scrum or eduScrum or whatever tool you use. When you don't know the why behind it, it will be a control system or a trick. Maybe works first or second time, but then it is over. Students are smart enough, and when it is a trick.
Yeah, and that's a good point because actually I would always say to the students, why are you doing this?
Yes.
They would say, what do you mean by why? The last course I did, trade courses before that, professor actually never asked me this. So I just did, it was more, as you did, it was routine. So that was the big issue. So trying to break people out of that mold is very difficult, especially in the States, is you're actually taught to do this, develop this class, and actually do it and to give them a grade. And again, let's talk about grading versus how you actually do things. Based on what I learned, is students were more focused on what grade they were going to get. Have you run across the same issue?
You talk about the why. The why is very important to explain to students why we are doing what we are doing. When I go back for the 50 years ago, or maybe 30 years ago, and the why, that wasn't in the teaching stuff of the teacher. There was not why into it. There was only what you have to learn. I tell you what you have to learn. And also, I tell you also how you have to learn. I give you homework. That's it. And later on, the why is coming in. And what I use in my students, I give them a project, an assignment, copper and mobile phones, making the strongest concrete, making a very healthy meal, and all this kind of stuff. And I asked them the 3 Scrum words, what are very powerful. As Dave, I want so that. So as, want, so that. That is your first individually writing things down. In the beginning, students think, hey, that is very simple. I want to do learning my chemistry soft so that I get the uh, highest marks. So I don't accept it. They must write down a good why, good what they want to do, and so that's what they want to reach out. And when they do it in a very good way, you have to give time for it. They will create their own criteria extra because they are thinking very deep. And when I do this individually in a team, then I let them combine as a team of the golden team, for instance. We want, so all wants come together in this individually together, and also the so that's. I combine all wants and so that's together, so they make a team as one so that. I can really recommend it you. It is really, really, really powerful.
Gentlemen,
again,
we can talk a lot more about this, but I want to give time, Willie, for you, the last question, to say people are interested, they listen to this, how they can find out more, how can they reach out to you?
Thank you, Dave. They can reach out to me to send me an email or go to the website for eduScrum.org and you can find a link to my email or Google me and you can have contact to me. Next to that, I will send you, Jim and Dave. You are not yet in the eduScrum community, but I will send you a link to this book project. You can look. I make you a little teaser,
Yeah, that'd be great. And when the book is ready, you're welcome to come back on and tell us about it. I'm going to find out more. You've piqued my interest. I have 3 kids in schools, so I'm going to look at the material and see how we can apply it to their schools.
And when you have
So,
questions, reach out to me.
absolutely.
and
So,
actually, let me just say one final thing, Dave. Especially if you're teaching a class, whether it be at the grade school or at the university school, eduScrum works. It definitely works. Whether it be called eduScrum or Scrum, it definitely works. I know. I actually, I was actually one of your teachers. I was actually had the credential eduScrum teacher. So again, you probably should actually talk to Willie and identify how you do it in your work and how you actually do it in your school. So that's the last piece I'll leave. I can spend hours with you, Willie, going through all of
You can reach out to me.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good to hear from you, Willie. We need to talk more.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jim. And thank you very much, Dave.
yeah, thank you, gentlemen. And thank you to the listener, the viewer. If you have any comments, drop them in whatever social platform you're watching or listening to this on, or reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, David Borzillo. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey, bye-bye.